Hello everyone, my name is Mike and this is the Bored Cyborg. Welcome back to another episode of What I've Watched, which is a series where I catalog the films I've watched in the last week, give my thoughts on them, and let you guys know how I felt about them. Let's dig right into what I've watched, and yeah, I rewatched Die Hard because I usually watch it a couple times in a year. Watched it a second time. Not going to talk about it really again because I already talked about it in my last What I've Watched. Die Hard, one of the greatest movies of all time. My favorite action film of all time. I did also watch Die Hard 2, which takes place around Christmas as well. So it's one I watch once every year around this time. And I did grow up with Die Hard 2. Love it. Loved it as a kid. Still love it as an adult. Directed by Rennie Harlin. Came out in 1990. You know, it's a great action movie from the 90s, for sure. There's no doubt about it. I don't want to say it doesn't hold a candle to Die Hard, but Die Hard is just on another tier of awesomeness. So, you know, it just kind of falls into great 90s action movie as opposed to greatest action movie of all time territory. Starring William Sadler as the villain. Obviously, Bruce Willis is back. Reginald VelJohnson makes a little cameo. Dennis Franz is great in this too as a police sergeant. And this one basically is Die Hard at an airport. And it's very well done in terms of its Die Hardness. And Bonnie Bedelia is back in this one as John McClane's wife. And she is sort of the crux of the story. Her plane is caught in the air while the terrorists take over the airport, essentially. The villains unknowingly are getting personal with one cop that you don't want to with, and that's John McClane. Franco Nero actually makes an appearance in this as the kind of the boss of the villains. He plays a drug cartel kingpin being transported, and he's, you know, the main MacGuffin, I suppose, the reason why the terrorists are taking over the airport. They're working with him. It has some really cool twists and turns, and yeah, grew up watching this movie, Die Hard 2, Die Harder, I knew it as when I was growing up. Still love it to this day. Still has that Christmassy vibe going for it. The only thing I really don't love is the female reporter character. I always forget her name. I don't know the actress. She gets a bit grating at points. Yeah, her performance just is annoying, really. And a couple of the other performances are a bit off. I don't know the actors' names, but they're just not great actors. The action sequences are done really well. Again, Rennie Harlin knows how to shoot action, Long Kiss Goodnight, Cliffhanger, etc. And Die Hard 2 is no exception. So that's Die Hard 2. Love it. Not as much as the first, but nothing tops the first one for me, so there we go. The next thing I watched wasn't a feature film. It was an episode of Ren and Stimpy. In particular, the first Christmas special that Ren and Stimpy did. Now, I watched this back in the early 90s with my father. My father put me onto the show. My mother hated it. She hated that I watched it at such a young age because, you know, looking back, this is an adult cartoon, no doubt about it, and it was one of the first, it was actually part of the first run of Nickelodeon shows Rugrats and Doug, you know, to kick off the 90s. Ren and Stimpy as an adult is such a different experience. A lot of my humor, I've realized, comes from Ren and Stimpy. All of that stuff I soaked up as a kid, all that disgusting, grotesque humor. Love Ren and Stimpy. And the episode I watched, like I said, was the Christmas special, and that was called Son of Stimpy. This is an episode that my father and I watched incessantly. We used to watch it every Christmas, whenever it was on TV. This is at a time where you couldn't own these things on VHS till a little later, or at least I owned them on VHS a little bit later into the mid-90s. Yeah, Son of Stimpy follows Stimpy. Again, it's a Christmas episode, and it's a full 23-minute episode. It follows Stimpy, who right in the beginning of the episode farts. And he believes he gave birth to a sentient creature, which he actually did. The fart's name is Stinky. Oh, Stinky! I blurt that out randomly sometimes, and people think I'm insane, and they'd be correct. And yes, Son of Stimpy follows Stimpy trying to find his lost fart, his son. That is a fart who sounds a lot like Pauly Shore in a time where Pauly Shore, I think, was starting to take off maybe during the MTV era, but it definitely sounds like Pauly Shore.
Oh, why did I ever leave home?
Son of Stimpy is a great episode, definitely one of the most memorable Ren and Stimpy episodes. If you haven't seen that one, definitely check it out, especially around Christmas time. It's disgustingly cute, and it's ridiculous, and so fantastic, and so funny, gross, and wonderful. And that's Ren and Stimpy in a nutshell. So, Love this show. I've been watching a few episodes of this as well, because once I start, man, it's hard to stop. But love Ren and Stimpy. I'm so glad I have these in my collection to cherish forever. The next film I watched was on YouTube, of all things, and it was a really shitty quality copy, but it's literally the only copy I could find. The VHS is out of print. It's not on DVD anywhere, not on Blu-ray. It's a film from 1989 called Elves. Now, this is sort of a full moon ripoff of all, like, for all the things to rip off. This guy decided to rip off a full moon picture in a sense. Kind of has that vibe, but it's even more low budget and worse than most full moon films that I've seen. I was really disappointed in this one, and to be honest, I was looking forward to it. It has this wild story about Nazis engineering a super soldier that happens to be an ancient elf who's resurrected and is trying to impregnate the daughter of the... It's fucking crazy. The old man in the film, who's like this obvious German, he was probably like a scientist of some sort, you know, during the war. His daughter is the main protagonist female's father and grandfather. So I'll let you do the math on that one and figure that out. It's f***ed up. It has some really weird moments with... Incest is like an overlying theme here. Some really weird moment in the beginning with the brother of the main protagonist, the final girl, I guess you could say, who comments on how nice his sister's tits are. It's really bizarre, and not really in a good way. It's not too much fun. Dan Haggerty is the best part of it, who's known for Grizzly Adams more than anything. He's fine in it, but the dialogue is abysmal. I mean, awful. Not even funny, not cringy. It's just, wow, I can't believe someone wrote that bad. And his character chain smokes, and it's obvious that Grizzly Adams ain't a smoker because he looks so awkward smoking cigarettes, and he is smoking in every single scene of the film. Trying to be like this hard-boiled ex-detective. It just doesn't work. It's a mess of a film, and even the elf puppet is very poor and shot poorly. The lighting's okay, but the way that the elf is shot, it just looks so cheap, and his mouth is always agape. And it looks ridiculous. This is one, if you're going to watch it with a few friends around this time. It is a Christmas horror movie in a sense, because it all takes place on Christmas Eve. Not too great. The first half is better than the second half. I mean, there's an action sequence in there it's a shootout that goes on for what feels like 20 minutes, and it's so fucking boring. It's unbelievable. But yeah, don't need to see Elves. It's I can't recommend it. It's not a good film. The next film I watched is a phenomenal film that I hadn't seen since I was very young. Again, with my father. That is Scrooged. Scrooged is, obviously, as the title could suggest, it's a Christmas Carol. It's a modern take on a Christmas Carol. And it's also one of the best versions of a Christmas Carol that I have seen. I still prefer the succinctness and the magical nature of Mickey's Christmas Carol, but I feel like technically this is better, and I do enjoy this a little bit more. This is a feature-length film directed by Richard Donner. Of course, Richard Donner did Superman 1 and 2, all four of the Lethal Weapon films, Lady Hawk. Prolific director who's done some work that I absolutely love. A lot of work that I love, in fact. And Scrooged is one of his best. This is such a phenomenal Christmas movie with a performance by Bill Murray that almost transcends Bill Murray. I think it's his best performance that I've ever seen. Bill Murray's character's name is Frank Cross, and he plays this cutthroat TV producer kind of guy in New York City, and his transformation and his journey to becoming a better man and understanding the true nature of Christmas and love and friendship and giving instead of taking all the time. It's really magical, and the scenes with him going through, the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, all of the ghosts are great, especially my favorite, Carol Kane. She plays the ghost of Christmas present. She plays this fairy type of ballerina character who flies around and has a magic wand and everything. And the cool thing about her character, what sets it apart, is she's basically like Moe from the Three Stooges. She fucks Bill Murray up. She's punching him in the face, knocking him downstairs, kicking him in the nuts, just beating the shit out of him. And they get into some funny physical altercations, and it's great. Carol Kane is phenomenal in this. I like Carol Kane anyway. I think she's a great comedic talent. Definitely check it out this season. It's one of Bill Murray's best, in my opinion, and like I said, probably his best performance, so much range in this performance, and you could really see a lot of passion there. And I understand that Richard Donner and him had some troubles on set, some differences, differences in opinion on set. And that really comes through, I think, in Bill Murray's performance, kind of his aggression. Robert Mitchum, an older Robert Mitchum, is in it as well. And it's just a perfect modern retelling, or modern for 1988, modern retelling of A Christmas Carol. Definitely check it out. I loved Scrooge, and I will make this a tradition and watch this once a year. So fantastic and expertly done by Richard Donner. And I didn't watch too much last week, so this is the last film I'm going to talk about. I've been playing a shit ton of Dead Cells on the Nintendo Switch. I'm pretty much addicted to that game, so I usually play an hour or two a night and get caught up in that instead of watching things. But the last thing I did watch last night, or rewatched I should say, was Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This is a Rankin and Bass classic from 1970, and I liked it as a kid a lot, but it doesn't hold up quite as well in terms of their Christmas films. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Year Without Santa Claus are much better, Frosty the Snowman. But the animation's fantastic. The stop-motion claymation, you can't go wrong. It's still a wonder to look at. The sets are beautiful. The voice acting's great. Mickey Rooney plays Santa Claus, or Kris Kringle. And you've also got Keenan Wynn and Fred Astaire who does the narration. The thing about this is it doesn't hold up as well as the others because it gets a bit creepy at points. When Santa's talking about all he wants from the kids is to give them kisses and to give them gifts, and they're sitting on his lap, and I don't know, it's these weird traditions that, in the modern age just don't seem quite right, and it just gets a little awkward at points. But it still does have some of that magic. The Rankin and Bass magic is there. It's just some of the dialogue choices and some of the songs are a bit redundant and repetitive. Yeah, it's an above average Rankin and Bass film, but definitely one of their weaker outings. And that's all I really have to say about it. So that was Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I will be watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty, and A Year Without Santa Claus for sure, which are in my set over there as well. And that's about it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this, as well as the little bell for notifications. Let me know what movies you've seen out of the ones I watched last week, and which ones are your favorite. Let me know what you've been watching. That would be awesome to discuss that, and leave that in the comments below. And that's about it. Enjoy the holiday, guys. Enjoy family and friends. That's what it's all about. Anyways, guys, I will see you next time. Bored Cyborg out. Peace!